this is going to be a heavy subject for Christmas, but I want to wish everybody out there Merry Christmas, and I hope you all have a Happy New Year. There are some of us who are not having a very good time for Christmas, and there are stories, well-written stories, that can help us get through troubled times, especially when we are experiencing sadness, grief, or even despair. And there are some stories out there that are so well written that they can show us how these things can be not just conquered, but just basically overcome, and how no matter how bad things get, there is hope. There's always hope. For us here, it's the loss of baby. We lost our cat, the kitten that we had. He was 8 months old. There was complications at the vet. Turns out he had the largest and we found out it was a he. Found out he had the largest enlarged heart of any cat that they have ever seen before. And that is not good for cats. It's actually very bad for cats. It can drastically shorten their lifespan. In fact, he was looking at possibly only living for about 2 years. I mean, he showed no indication of any problems, but they said that he almost died once. And they said he was going to start having all sorts of medical issues, and he would have to be on medicines and everything for the rest of his life, and his life was going to be cut short. And so the doctor had to give us the hard choice: let him suffer or let him go. And we had to make a hard choice. And it's a choice we didn't want to make, but the way things are around here, we wouldn't have been able to give him the care that he deserves. I know it doesn't sound good, but we wanted to keep him. We really did. You know, he was a part of our lives, and this hit us really, really hard, because he had become a part of our lives. He had a really strong personality, and the other cats, you know, he drove them nuts, but they're feeling his absence. They are acting up. They're wanting a lot more attention than before. Callie is going around the house crying because she can't find him. It's a cat, but yeah, it's an animal. But they become they become so much a part of your life. It's like they're another family member. And people who don't have pets just don't understand just how hard it is to lose one, especially one so young. And, you know, because of what happened at the vet, he was just going to have nothing but medical issues for what little was left of his life. But going on to stories, as I said, there are stories that are so well written to teach you how to deal with grief, how to deal with sorrow and loss and despair. And there's none that I have seen in recent years that does this better than Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker. And one of the big scenes is the one with Urianger and Moonbryda's parents. A little bit of context. Moonbryda is the character you see on the screen right now. She is an Archon from Sharlayan, and she was a childhood friend of one of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn in Sharlayan. Sharlayan is a isolationist city-state comprised of very learned individuals who have an extensive amount of magical knowledge, and they keep a lot of that knowledge to themselves because they fear it will be used for war. And so they remain strictly neutral in all things. Well, one of their number, Louisoix Levieur, decided that that was the wrong stance to take, and he went to Eorzea to help them deal with the Garlean Empire's invasion, and also with the trouble with, eventually the trouble with primals, which are summoned beings created by the beast tribes. Moonbryda came to the Scions of the Seventh Dawn when they were dealing with the Ascians. And the Ascians are, there's a long, I'm not going to go too in-depth into their backstory, but they were survivors of an ancient cataclysm who, there were only 3 of them from an ancient cataclysm that destroyed their world. And their people were godlike beings that could basically create anything. And their world was almost destroyed by an event called the Final Days. They were able to save it by summoning a primal themselves called Zodiarch. And because of events surrounding that, another primal called Hydaelyn, this is some spoilers for those who haven't played the game, they created another one called Hydaelyn. They opposed each other, and eventually Hydaelyn defeated Zodiarch, and the world was sundered into the Source and 13 Reflections. And the 3 surviving Ascians, the 3 surviving members of that civilization, who survived without being split up like everyone else was, are trying to put everything back together. Their cause is noble, and this is the one thing about Final Fantasy XIV, is that its villains are never, there are very, very few villains in this game that are your typical, stereotypical, mustache twirling, evil for evil's sake villains. Everybody who's a villain in this, almost everybody that's a villain in this, has a reason for being the way he is. He has a point, a villain with a point. And the Ascians are just trying to restore their world. But the way they're going about it is brutal and causes a lot of death and everything. And the Scions are trying to find a way to defeat them. And they come up with a device that will probably do that. Moonbryda is with the Scions for a short time, but she makes a big impression when she is with them. She becomes a really popular character with everybody, and she ends up giving her life, not just her life, but everything that she is, the very energy of her body, in order to kill this one Ascian. And now this is not one of the unsundered Ascians. This is one of the awakened ones. Someone who is a fragment of a soul from someone who was once an ancient, who was awakened to his memories by one of the 3 unsundered. His name was Nabrialis. The original 3 unsundered are Lahabrea, Emet-Selch, and Elidibus. Well, fast forward past all those events, we go through the whole thing with the Warriors of Darkness, and there's so much information here, and I didn't want to convey everything on this because there are so many spoilers before getting to these events later on in Endwalker with Moonbryda's parents. But we really don't spend that much time with the members of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn in the early parts of the game. We hardly ever spend any time with them except for Louisoix's grandson, Alphanut. We hardly ever spend any time with them. We hardly ever get to know them. So there's not a lot of character development. Well, that starts to change once we get into the other expansions, especially in Shadowbringers and in Endwalker. And there's tremendous character development, especially with Urianger, because he was just this eloquently spoken member of the Scions who was just there to give out quests to deal with primals. That's all he was there for. But once we get into Shadowbringers, he starts becoming a lot more of a fleshed out character. There's a lot more character development with him. You get to learn a lot more what his motivations are. In the storyline with the Warriors of Darkness story, you learn that he's sort of the kind of guy, he's the guy that would be like Snape. He would be willing to give up to let his friends think he's a turncoat in order to save them. That's the kind of guy he is. And he has come a long way in the story. He's come a long way in the story since then, and the reason he even did all of that was because of what happened with Moonbryda. And so you get to the scene in Endwalker, where Moonbryda's parents come and meet him for the first time. And as I said, in writing, especially in video games, some video game writing is sometimes an afterthought. Story is sometimes just an afterthought. It's just something that was just thrown together to give the main character motivation for doing what they're doing. But the writing in this is just absolutely amazing work. We call the author Gigakawa, but she wrote Shadowbringers and she wrote Endwalker, and the writing is superb. And dealing with sadness and grief and despair is the theme of Endwalker, and it's partially the theme of Shadowbringers, although Shadowbringers also is sort of a horror story in a way. But dealing with sadness and grief and conquering despair is the theme of Endwalker. And just to show you how good the story writing is for this, I'm going to show you the scene where Urianger meets Moonbryda's parents. And this is some of the best writing in a game that I've seen in a long time. And as I said, video games are a really good medium for telling these stories, because there are people out there like us, because of Baby, who are dealing with grief and loss and everything. And these stories, more than just entertain, they can teach us how to handle that grief, how to process it. And this is just some amazing stuff. Let's watch this scene. It's a little long. I'm going to do the whole thing because of important context, and I'll give some commentary on what's being said. One of the characters you'll be seeing here is Thancred. Thancred's a character that you meet early on in the game, especially if you begin in Ul'dah. You'll see him briefly if you start in the other city-states, but if you start in Ul'dah, you'll get to spend a little bit more time with him, but not a whole lot. And these little guys are the Loporrits. It's a spoiler to talk any further more about who they are. There's Urianger. Now, these little guys came from a previous Final Fantasy game.
Everyone eager to meet.
Don't remember which one it was. I think it was 3. I don't think it was 4.
It would behoove you to consult with Sleeping Way. As our moon's pilot, his advice should be most pertinent.
I'm impressed. Truth be told, I struggle to tell one from another. No offense intended, of course.
None taken. After you and your friends left Mare Elementorum, we spent no small amount of time with your Urianger. Oh, the conversations we had. He told us all about Atheris, answered our every question, no matter how trifling or trivial. Look! Every page filled to the margins with knowledge. When I first arrived, I was struck by how little I knew. It was daunting. But then I realized that, were it not for Urianger and his teachings, we'd still be stuck on the moon, gazing at your world and wondering what we've been missing.
Yeah, I missed a lot.
What would they think if they could see Urianger now? I dare say they'd be more than a bit surprised. And impressed, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, all these characters have gone through some serious serious character development, especially Thancred and Urianger. Okay.
Oh there. Heard there was a visiting expert who we might bother with a few questions. I take it you'd be the one.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Vilfson and Moonbryda, Sharlayan's foremost researchers in the field of teleportation magic, and Moonbryda's parents.
It hath been some time. Tis good to see you in good health.
Likewise, old friend. Moonbryda and I were most honored to answer the call. Never expected this reunion, though, did we, dear?
I'll say, the nerve. Sending that letter, then running off to the gods know where. Do you have any idea how worried we were?
I'm sorry. 'Twas remiss of me not to deliver the news in person. No, more than that. 'Twas I who...
Our daughter was disillusioned after Master Louisoix left her behind. The day the Scions called upon her was the happiest I'd seen her in years. She made her every choice of her own free will. No one could have ever forced her to do otherwise. Don't blame yourself for her death. Celebrate her life. You know that's what she'd want.
If there is one thing we resent you for, it was that we could not be there to mourn her with you. Reading the words you penned in that shaky hand, we must have cried as much for you as we did for her.
I'm sorry. I truly, truly am. I knew not what to say. Knew not how to express my feelings. The poems and platitudes of wiser men, musings on sadness and loss, studied and memorized, and meaningless in the moment.
silly boy. We are all powerless before such grief. Even now, try as I might, the words escape me. But in our hearts, we know. We always know.
I remember when you were young, how the lads teased you for choosing the company of books over others. Our moon didn't take kindly to that. Be nice to Urianger, she'd shout, and give them a walloping. No matter how many times we scolded her.
So we offered a suggestion. Rather than starting fights, why don't you be the bridge between Urianger and the others? She had to mull it over for a while, arms crossed, brow furrowed in intense thought. But from that day on, she never let you be alone. She'd drag you outside to play, pepper you with endless questions, read the same books you read, all to try and understand you that much better. I'm sure it was annoying and exhausting at the time, but she only ever had the best of intentions.
And look at you now, at the center of the crowd. The reason there even is a crowd, having brought these people together. You've no idea how proud we are.
To see the boy, our daughter, trusted and believed in more than anyone, grow into the man she always knew he could be. I can see her in you too. Feel her. She walks with you wheresoever you go. So thank you, Urianger, for being who you are.
I think I can feel her too. The truth of her life. Not sorrow, but hope and love.
This Moonbryda. She was important to him, wasn't she?
You could ask the man himself.
Oh, no. But watching this exchange reminds me how much I've yet to learn about your world. And its people.
You can live here your entire life and hardly learn a thing. And that's why it's too soon for this to end.
And so you see what I mean. We're saddened by our loss of baby. We gave him a name. We called him Turbo. We're saddened by him, but also should remember, the good things. Well, ignoring the fact that I had battle scars from his claws. They were damn sharp. He kept the cats on their toes. As much as Callie growled at him all the time, she misses him a lot, and we all miss him a lot. I mean, I keep a thing over here by my side that he used to sit on all the time. I would reach down and pet him. But I know that I will never be as good a writer as Ishikawa is in this scene. In how the process your sadness, your grief, how to deal with it. So we can sit here and we can cry and we can be sad all the time, or we can remember baby for the good things, the positive things that he brought to our lives. He was this disruptive force he was just this disruptive force in this house that we really needed for a long time. Just to keep the cat stirred up, and he loved the play. He took every opportunity to be something to play back, and he played with everything on the floor. If you drop something on the floor, it was something he could play with and chase and knock around with his paws. There's a number of those ball toys that cats love to play with. Well, our cats don't tend to like them, but he played the heck out of them and somehow knocked the balls out of them, and now I don't know where they are. And we made a 3D printed little test figure called a Benchy. And we put it on a string, and he just attacked the heck out of that. We've got that hanging up on the wall. But we can sit here and we can be sad. We can be melancholic about it, or we can remember the good things about him. And we can move on from that pain, from that grief, not let it overwhelm us. And this is the message of Endwalker, and this is the message of good writing, good story writing. And just don't let grief and sadness overwhelm you. Don't let it dominate you. Don't let it control you. You can easily just let grief and sadness just overwhelm you. And it's easy to get into that trap, to just be in a melancholic state because you're just sad because you've lost something that is so important to you. And for people who have pets who lose them, that have been a part of their lives, even for as short a time as Baby was, or Turbo was, he left a big impression, and we do feel his absence. He had just that big a personality, and had that such a big influence in this house. And it's not going to be the same without him, but we can remember him and celebrate the joy brought here. How he kept the cats busy. He kept the other two busy. All the times he liked playing, having him chasing that laser toy. I've still got this here. Little rechargeable laser toy. Callie will play with it occasionally. But, as I said, I don't know if I will be a good enough writer to be able to convey that kind of message in a story of how to handle, process grief, how to conquer despair. But I just wanted to give a good example of good writing on how on this subject. And I know it's a heavy subject for Christmas, but there are some people out there who aren't having a really good, happy time. And, you know, our friend Dave's not here because he's having issues again, just like last year. And now Baby's not here. Or, I mean, things, you get the idea. Anyway, just wanted to convey that. As I said, my focus on this channel has been a lot more on talking about writing, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of the writing side of things. I will do some gaming. I actually downloaded Marvel Rivals. I'm going to try that out. Saw a video from Asmongold about that, and the game's actually just kicking Overwatch's butt. They're eating Overwatch's lunch, basically. Supposedly a lot better than Overwatch, so I'll check that out. But 2025, going into that year, my intention is to start doing a lot of writing. I haven't done as much right now. My intention is to do a lot more writing, do work on the stories, to have something to show, particularly short stories, and I'll do some readings of those here on the channel. That's my intention for 2025, and the reason why I was changing some of what this channel is all about, because I'm already doing the gaming stuff on another channel, and I figured, you know, this was another thing that I've got a lot of interest in, and it's writing stories. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching me ramble. Again, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. I wish you a Happy New Year and a safe New Year this year. Be safe out there, and I'll see you all next time.